Hello there, and welcome back to another episode of Tranquility du Jour. It's a treat to be with you. I wanted to dive into my year in review and hopefully encourage you to do the same. As we really, rather than launch into the new year, it sounds a little intense. I like to think of just like kind of softly slither into this brand new year. And I invite you to join me as I kind of go through the process with you. And I would love to hear, of course, about your journey too. So please feel free to reach out after you've kind of walked through all of this on your own and let me know what comes up for you. I always love hearing from you. And I can be reached at hello@kimberlywilson.com. So just a little background with these years in review is I used to, way back in the day, I would do weeks in review, and then it turned to months and then seasons, and now it's pretty much annually. And the thing that was really helpful is to sit down and look at, okay, what had transpired that year? What was feeling good? What was I thinking, I want to make sure I carry over? And that's really the whole idea behind this process. It's never at all to feel shamed or, to feel embarrassed or disappointed. Sure, sometimes that comes up when you realize, okay, I've been carrying this over year after year. And I definitely have that experience from time to time. And yet it's also really good to honor whatever small shift you're able to make. So this process, it helps me stay accountable, sets and review goals, because sometimes at the beginning of the year we're like, I want to do this, and then by March or September we've forgotten about it. And so I like to create a little, it's just like I'll pull out an image from a magazine and put some words on it using a black Sharpie, like very basic, but it's been the way I've done this process for years. And I encourage you to find something that works for you, because if we can set these goals and then review them regularly, it can really help. Of course, celebrating if you're like, oh my gosh, I did XYZ, and then noting what needs a little tweaking, a little adjustment, especially if you're like, oh my gosh, every month I'm putting this on and I'm not even taking a tiny step towards it. Maybe it just isn't a priority anymore. So, to compile all of this information, what I do is I'll go through my planner. I'll go through the month's dreams that I put in the planner. And I was exploring my Goodreads app, but last year it didn't go so well for me with reading. And so I haven't even set my reading challenge this year. So we'll see if we do. But for those of you who do and really love to read and kind of document it or track it, it's a wonderful resource, because if you meet your goal, you get confetti. And for some reason, that is incredibly motivating to me. I also reviewed my ballet class platforms from the different places where I take them, and then photos. I spent an hour going through and choosing my favorite photos of the year, and then another hour turning it into a reel. This stuff is quite involved, right? So, I encourage you to find a way that works for you, doesn't feel like too much time. But if you think about it, a year is 365 days, obviously. You're like, okay, I took 2 hours to pull together something that's pretty meaningful to me. And so, in the grand scheme of things, it may not sound too long whenever I say 2 hours. So, I encourage you to consider your own 2023 list. And, what did you have on there? What worked for you? What didn't? What felt good? What experiences did you have? And, looking for patterns, wins, challenges, boundaries, and all those sweet moments in between. Because I feel like those moments in between are what really kind of make up our life. No pressure. And although I know this year may have been challenging, I've definitely heard this from many, and I experienced it. Oh my goodness, at the start of this year, I was just so spent. I went into the year exhausted from everything that was happening during the holidays. And, it was just one thing after another. It was really, really hard. And then the year, it picked up. And so for you, if that's the case, or maybe it ended in a lull, to just know it's normal, right? It's like we're constantly in flux, and no matter how kind of quote unquote perfect things may feel, there's always something that's going to be coming around the corner. And so how can we build that resilience to handle it like I couldn't at the beginning of the year last year, where it was just like so much. There was so much disappointment and change and things along those lines. And again, the dust has settled, but thinking about it for you. So if this year, if it wasn't that great of a year, I'll bet there were some sweet moments. And it could even be like bird song in April, right? In spring, we just have all this beautiful bird song, or the beautiful blooming trees that you saw walking to the office. Again, whatever it might be, sometimes we have to really dig deep, particularly if it's been a hard year. So if you go to kimberlywilson.com/623, you will find all you need for this episode. So in it, I have a variety of resources for you, lots and lots of yummy links. I also have for you a bunch of photos. I just pulled a few together, so I shouldn't say a bunch, maybe about 6 or 7 or 8, just a few of the highlights. And then I also have a link to the reel that I mentioned. And just some questions for you to ponder and ask yourself. So, for the photos, one is a photo of my partner and I at the Kennedy Center. And I loved going to so many ballets this year. And so that's a photo of us at one of them. Another one is a photo of the Coterie Tea Party, those who were able to join live and in person. It was such a treat. And here is a really sweet photo. And there's sweet little baby Gizmo. My mom's behind me, and then many other lovely, lovely ladies who you have seen probably or may have met in over the years. And we had somebody, Tanya, who came all the way from California. So it was a treat. And then the next photo is my mom and I at a sweet little place in Paris. Actually, this is a funny story because as I was on the plane out to Paris to visit, there was this ad on the seat in front of me. And I screenshot it because I was like, what is this place? It's gorgeous. There's this beautiful restaurant. Well, then I meet up with somebody who lives there and they tell me that's where we're going. And I just was so excited because I'm like, what are the chances the one restaurant I take a screenshot of, and then that's the one that my friend's taking us to? So here we are at it, my mother and I, enjoying a little bit of vino before we went to a ballet. Now, after that is a sweet photo. Sorry, my use of sweet is a little excessive, but as I look at these and these memories, it really brings up wonderful feelings. And this is a great shot of my partner and my dance teacher, who I adore, and on the red carpet before the award ceremony. And then there's a photo. Many people have asked, like, what is the band that was around your femur? And so here it is before it was removed. And who knew a tiny little band like that could cause so much irritation? So this year I had another surgery to just cut off that band. And that's the photo. Okay, and then here I am with Gizmo, and if you zoom in, you can see he's got a bunch of sand on his face, this sweet little monkey. And then here he is on his 16th, and then here we are around a Christmas tree just towards the end of last year. And then this last photo is the mini worn out ballet slippers, and I think I have like 3 or 4 to add to this photo. So I took a little bit of time to think about what are my top 10 experiences, and I'm sure I'm missing something, but hosting the Coterie, always a delight. And then the in-person tea party, which you saw a photo from that. Winning first place in the International Adult Ballet Festival's beginner classical category. I won it for Les Sylphides, and it was so meaningful to me because the year before I had won the silver, and this year I had a horrible dress rehearsal, and then somehow I brought it the day of the performance, and I brought home the gold and was so over the moon. I've got some photos and a reel from that in the show notes. I turned 50. That was a highlight. It really was. Even though I joke, like on Instagram, I put this thing where I'd gotten mail from AARP and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's real. It's legit. Here I am. Celebrated Gizmo's 16th birthday, and this was really fun. My partner and I went to a dog-friendly hotel, a little boutique hotel, just for one overnight. And it was so great because we could have Gizmo out in kind of the foyer area with it being dog friendly, and there was like a little wine tasting and a fire and a beautiful tree, and it was just a wonderful way. And Gizmo was so behaved, which is rare, so it was a really wonderful day to spend a random Saturday night in December. I was featured as Miss December in the 2024 ballet calendar put out by Broche Ballet, which was so exciting. When she sent the draft out to people just to make sure that they were comfortable with the photos, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm Miss December. So sweet. Of course, my mom bought 2 copies. I made a lot of simplification shifts based on the way the year started, and one is the clothing line in particular. I also had my last virtual retreat that I hosted from Paris, and then I also had my last pet loss support sessions in 2023. I did those for 5 years, and they were so meaningful to me, but with Gizmo kind of being in the later stage of his life, I just was finding them to be a bit more challenging for me emotionally. So those are some of the things that I simplified for my life. Traveled to Paris twice, which was really a treat. In June, I went with my mom, and then October, I went over and hosted the virtual retreat from there. I released the Tranquility, or the TDJ Ballet Corps collection, which I had so much fun creating. It was so much work and so much time, as those are, and I have done them for like 20 years. And so releasing that was so fun because it was my swan song of sorts, as I've decided not to continue the clothing line as I've been doing it the past 22 years. So I'll release from time to time an occasional capsule, and that might be in 2024 or 2025. So stay tuned. And there's a link where you can sign up to find out more about the clothing line. So if you want to be the first to know when a capsule releases. I created the Tranquility Salon monthly membership, and I love pulling those together for you guys every month. There's usually 2 to 3 bonuses in addition to the 3 Tranquility tools. And they're all seasonally related, or inspired. And, it's wonderful. As I think about February, right, which will be the next one I do, I'm like, oh, February is such a hard month for people. So I look forward to doing that one as a way of how do we get through it? I do find it just is so hard on people. It's dark, it's cold, it's just, we're done. We are ready for spring. And then I revealed my new book cover, which was done by the same illustrator who did Tranquilista in 2010. And now I just need to write it. I had hoped to release it holiday. Okay, that absolutely did not happen. And I just had to give myself grace with it and be like, okay, 2024 at some point. So in the show notes, I have a list of additional kind of random things, and I'll just go through a few of them to share what are some experiences that I had. And, a few that kind of stand out. The second hip surgery. Booked my flights to go to Borneo. So in March, the retreat that I signed up for was postponed twice. And then this is the 3rd time it's been rescheduled for. So I've got my flight, so I'm going. And it's at an orangutan sanctuary. So I'm so excited. And we'll definitely be taking you along with me and sharing lots of photos and video. I took 300 plus ballet classes nearly every day. I also performed in 2 group pieces at the International Adult Ballet Festival, and one was on Point. And I studied so hard in private lessons with Point just so that I could be a pink fairy. And that was wonderful, to wear a little pink tiara and also a pink tutu. I released digital courses, so the mental health course, which is now called Tranquility Within. A lot of new Tea with K videos. I hope you've enjoyed those. I tried to total it up, and I think I went to 10 live jazz shows. So in New York, Paris, and DC. Let's see what else. Lots of physical therapy. I joined Catherine Morgan. I don't know if you all know who she is. She's a dancer. And Friends, she does this thing called Catherine Morgan and Friends, because in these different areas that she teaches, she'll have local teachers come. And so I did that in New York City and in Philly. It was really, really nice. Made dozens of Pigs and Pugs Project micro grants. I even made 2 more on New Year's Eve that I need to get up and over on the Pigs and Pugs Project website. And we'll get an annual report pulled together. And it was $6,000 or $7,000 that we donated this year, which is just amazing. And it means so much to me. I find that pig sanctuaries, farm sanctuaries in general, and pug rescues, animal rescues in general, are just really, they're struggling. And so being able to do these makes me so, so happy. And the way it's funded is through these Tranquility du Jour events. So a big thank you for your support of things like the salon, the coterie, the clothing line, all the things, because a portion of it always goes towards this. I hosted the 600th podcast episode last February. Thank you so much for coming. 4 virtual retreats, Pink Friday, loved being with you. One person who attended asked for a pink weekend in the future, which I thought was super fun. And then fall inspiration. So I've got links to these over in the show notes. I tried to total it up, and I think it was at least 250 snail mail love notes. I would go to the post office with just like a bag filled with love notes, all handwritten with a little treat tucked inside. Sent a lot of love notes. I planned and launched Coterie 2024, and the doors close for that on the 13th, which is this upcoming Saturday. I read 18 of 40 books in my challenge, so I was a little disappointed, and I have to say I just found reading to be very hard for me the second half of the year. And I think it has to do with my sight and also my ability to focus. And I'll talk about that a little bit later. Celebrated my dad's 80th birthday, which was so fun in Oklahoma. And saw 2 Harry Styles shows in Paris. I must say that after that, I broke up with him. And it's not because he isn't amazing and he's not a beautiful performer. I just was like, I'm kind of done. So bizarre. I was like obsessed for, 8 months. And then I'm like, done. And he doesn't even pop up in my feed, my Instagram feed anymore. Anyway, so a little reflection of what worked well. And I encourage you to think about these questions. I have what worked well, what didn't work well, what did I learn about myself, how do my goals unfold, and then my next year's goals, and then just an overall wrap up. Okay, so I encourage you to think about these questions yourself. So what worked well? The second hip surgery, having a full psychotherapy practice filled with amazing clients. I ate more salads, and the trick to that was putting them in wraps and a little ranch dressing. So that was the trick. And I ate so many more, and I really enjoyed them. And I would just get a salad mix and then put that in the wrap. I hired some really amazing support, finalized the new book cover. So that's just a few things that seemed to go well, right? That was really good in 2023. What didn't work? So my therapist of 9 years retired and then booked a one-way ticket to Italy. And never fear, she gave me plenty of notice, but it's hard to let someone go who is so intimately involved in your life, and then she's like living her best life in Italy. Reading was hard, as I mentioned. I didn't create as much content as I'd hoped. I really thought that I would be writing some magazine articles and things like that, and I didn't. Exhausted a lot of the time, really exhausted. Excessive vet visits and senior pet needs, and then brain fog. I mean, hello, midlife. I think this is a little of like, what's to be expected? So what did I learn about myself last year? I mean, the big thing, and this is so simple, but I need more rest and simplicity in my life, like a lot more. And that's why I did a lot of trimming. I'm going to continue to, and really trying to protect my time and energy. So how do my goals for the year unfold? So, I went through my year's dreams from last year and I achieved more than 3/4 of them, which felt really good, especially since I felt a little like I was off kilter, particularly, well, I'm saying like the end of the year, but really at the start, I was super off kilter. And what I mean by that is just exhausted. I had a meaningful 50th birthday, continue streamlining my website. Thank you, Mara. You're the best. A proud performance. I really was proud of my performance in Les Feeds. That felt so, so good. And took trips to Paris, right? So a few that are still on my radar that I didn't meet are things like reading 48 books, solid pirouettes at the bar and center, daily salad. And let me just look at my list once more to see if there's anything else. And when I say daily salad, even though I improved on it, it wasn't daily. And that's something I really want to make sure I get more fruits and veggies in my body. So memoir book proposal was on my list. Did not do that. Didn't finish some online courses that I'd signed up for. I didn't have sacred morning creativity time. And I do have to say, and I don't want to blame anyone for this, but my dogs, God bless them, love them. But, one is basically like an infant. And, he can walk around outside and, what have you, but he just can't be left alone and needs constant tending to. So I found my mornings, were kind of eaten up with that to a degree versus being able to have a gentle morning routine and then sit down and be creative. I did not have that, which I want to be more intentional about in the new year. Published articles did not have that. And I have on here travel to Borneo, which I didn't, but it was because the retreat was canceled. So those are just a few of the dreams that did not unfold in addition to what I've mentioned. So a few of my 2024 year's dreams, and I'm curious what's on your radar. I want to complete and release Advanced Tranquility. So that's the working title of Tranquilista, all grown up in midlife. Advanced Tranquility. We'll see if that sticks, but that's the idea. Healthy pugs. I want to help my senior pugs have, the best quality of life possible. That's why we go to the vet a lot. I'm going to get a new website. At least that's the plan. My webmaster is working on all things for that behind the scene. So just kind of clean, streamlined, updated. Learn and perform a made-for-me ballet solo for the next Adult Ballet Festival, and it's to La Vie en Rose. And in the show notes, I have a link to the music, and I looked high and low to find La Vie en Rose that's sounds like it's on a record player. And so that's what I'm going to be using. And my teacher, Sean Kelly, has created this just gorgeous choreography. I've learned 1 minute of it. And when I say learned, I've seen and practiced, but I've got so far to go. 1 minute of it, and then we'll have another minute left. So it's really fun. Continuing nurturing my coterie loves and my clients. Create an Embrace Your Inner Parisian micro course. I'm going to start a Substack and read and simplify. Also, increasing color on my plate, always, 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 always. Like I even just got some lemons and ginger because one listener sent me this really great video showing somebody doing that. And I was like, I used to do that all the time. And so, bringing that back in, it's a small thing, but it's helpful. So overall, kind of a wrap up of 2023. It was an okay year. I mean, not fabulous, not horrible. Winning the gold, turning 50 were definitely big highlights. And, ballet, of course, continued to be a dominant presence in my life. I really do work my schedule around that. The coterie and pug caregiving. I would say those are the biggest things kind of in my life right now. And I really do see this kind of continuing into the new year, but I really do want to make more space to write, create content for you. As I said, starting a Substack soon, and sipping tea with friends, pug huddles, and reading Fireside or by Twinklelight. I want to get back to that, which leads me to my word or theme of the year. It's attention. And I've gone back and forth between attention and focus. And the irony, and I'll put a link to this in the show notes, is my partner listens to the Ezra Klein podcast, and he told me about an episode that he thought I would like, which was about attention and focus. And when he said that, I was like, oh my gosh, that's what I'm thinking my word of the year is going to be. And anyway, so I listened to the podcast on a train. I took a train back from West Virginia to DC this past weekend, and I listened to it. But you know what's funny is I had to restart it. About halfway through, I had to restart it because, of course, my attention had wandered. And, I'm just not a podcast listener. And so I need to pay more attention rather than multitasking when I'm doing it or when I'm supposed to be listening to it. Anyway, it was so good. And it was one of those things where I thought, wow, like, what are the chances that, Ezra Klein's talking about it. My partner, mentions it to me, and it's really on my radar as the theme for my year. So with that reading thing, I just found like, okay, yes, my eyes have been problematic, but I got a new prescription. I'm going to pick up my new glasses this week. So that will help. And then also, though, how do I stay present? And one thing that I've started doing is putting my phone on Do Not Disturb quite a bit, which is really nice. And then it's like a little treat when you take it off and you're like, oh, I have a bunch of sweet text messages, right? But what can we do to protect our attention and stay focused? Because it's so hard. It's so hard. And so what about you? What are you thinking for your word or theme of the year? And don't worry if you don't have it, because I often don't by the time, the new year rolls around. So that was just what was percolating in the back of my mind. And then it solidified it whenever I listened to that podcast. So what would yours be? What is it that you want a little bit more time and attention geared to, I should say, that would be a useful treat for you as you think about 2024. It could be simplify, slow, embody, good food. I mean, it can be so many things. It could be a color. So thinking about for you, what is it you want to bring into your life? And what I really like about this is that it helps us think about decisions. Will I do this or will I not do this? Well, does it align with my word or theme of the year? It doesn't mean it can't change. Please know it can, and it can evolve and shift, of course. But getting clear on what it is that you most need right now or you're most seeking in the year ahead, I hope this is helpful as you think about it. So in the show notes, I have a bunch of resources. A lot of these I share annually. I'm going to add, of course, the Ezra Klein podcast that I mentioned. And I want to thank you for tuning in. My partner and I will be doing the next podcast, and we have a big announcement that will release, of course, in 2 weeks, what is that? Just looking over at my planner. So the 8th is today. It'll release on the 22nd. And which is actually our 20-year anniversary. Oh my gosh. So yes, so tune in to that if you would like. Would love to share with you just a little bit of insight into our 20 years and also to share a big announcement. Okay. So as always, I want to thank you so much for inviting me into your day, into your year. If you're not yet signed up for Love Notes, please do so. KimberlyWilson.com/Love Notes. Follow on Instagram, which is at Tranquility du Jour, YouTube at Tranquility du Jour. And thank you so much for being with me on this journey called life. And I hope that the work that I share helps you find a little bit more beauty and balance in your everyday.